Never stop improving. Go from zero to hero over the course of a weekend by watching our entire Blueprint conference. Only available on the Josh Vegan membership. In any economy, there's kind of three stages to it. The first one is what we're going to call the expansion economy. And the expansion economy is a pretty exciting one because everyone's got a lot of access to money. We're in a position where we're out buying assets. As people go and buy assets, property prices fuel. That's a great thing because sellers think they're getting close to the top of the market, so they want to bring their property to the market to be able to achieve the very best sales price. And before you know it, keeps on growing and growing and growing. And we kind of went through this incredible period, particularly on the eastern seaboard here in Australia, where for like maybe a 5 to an 8 year period, depending on which city you were in, you kind of saw property prices going up, 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 up. And everything in that economy is about making sure that you can go and find someone who needs to sell. Because taking a property to market, you've got plenty of buyers that come to the pool that ultimately want to try and buy that property, either at auction or in for sale conditions, multiple offers, making all that stuff happen. What then happens is what we've been through in the course of the last 18 months, which is what we've got to call the contraction economy. Now, in the contraction economy, all of a sudden, money isn't as available as it was. All of a sudden, there's more people that are in a position that they need to sell. And, prospecting isn't exactly the biggest issue at that point. The biggest issue is about being able to find a buyer to actually buy a property. All of a sudden, you see auction clearance rates starting to come down. You see people in a position where they're getting really worried about what's happening to the property industry, and everyone's wanting to know when is it actually going to bottom out. And ultimately, buyers hold back from buying because they're worried about bottoming out. Sellers are trying to sell quickly before it gets to the bottom of the cycle because they want to try to maximize their profit. And then people just simply don't know what to do. Well, welcome to the third stage, which is the stage that we're actually in now. And this is what we go to call the slow burn recovery. In the recovery phase, we're now starting to get a little bit of growth to get us back into the position that we were in. Now, the problem with this is that what has actually happened is that we've also had a huge range of events that have kind of got agents off their ball from doing the prospecting that they should be doing. So all of a sudden, we're in a position that we had Easter, we had a federal election, and post the election, there was actually a bounce. And when that bounce happened, all of a sudden, there's a real lack of supply of properties to market, but at the same time, there's fueling buyer demand. Now, this fueling buyer demand has been driven by a couple of things. One was the change in the assessment rate by APRA. The second one was a movement in interest rates in a downward fashion, at least two, with another 2 movements predicted. We also saw the advent of the first homeowners deposit scheme. When all of these things come together, combined with really good quality press about how the property market is doing better, combined with a couple of auction clearance rates that are steadily on their growth curve, and in addition to that, some sales results where we're seeing properties sell $300,000, $400,000, $500,000, even $700,000 above the reserve, all of a sudden, agents and the market thinks that the market is back. Extra numbers that open for inspections, all of a sudden we're in this position where everything's okay. Now we're in a position where we've got this 2-speed economy. Because the first one is that we've still got a lot of properties that have been on the market for more than 30, 60 or 90 days. And these properties are still languishing, they're struggling, they're almost withdrawals or even expired listings where the agent has lost all enthusiasm and motivation for the property. Even worse than that, everyone in the market has already seen it and they're no longer looking at buying it because they don't believe that it actually represents true market value. But then the second speed in the economy is new properties that are coming to market are selling in 7, 14, 21 days or at auction and actually getting much higher prices than the quote price itself, as agents are struggling to work out where properties actually sit in relation to price points. So in the recovery market, you need to work both the buyers and the sellers, which is kind of bizarre because you need to be out there prospecting for buyers and also out there prospecting for sellers. What we do know is that a lot of people may be holding their properties from the market. And the reason why they're doing that is they're thinking that, property prices are going to rapidly increase. And as property prices rapidly increase, we could be back to what we were at in a very short period of time. Now, the problem with that is a lot of people don't understand what's actually happening in the economy. And there's a lot of movements which are very structural, which we need to start to think about because they will have a long-term impact on what actually happens to property prices. And what are they? Well, the real basic idea here is that we've got a low level of inflation, and also in addition to that, we've got a low level of employment growth. Now, when we've got low levels of employment growth, low levels of wage growth, low levels of inflation, what's actually happening is that prices won't be fueling. And the challenge with that is that if people can't get extra wages, then they can't go out and spend more money on property. And so this is kind of an interesting thing because we're using something which is usually used in a cycle, better known as interest rates, to try to reform what's happening in the economy. As we're approaching the top of the cycle, we increase interest rates to try to slow down the amount of growth. When we get to the bottom of the cycle, what we try to do is we try to decrease interest rates to make money really available. But the challenge with that is at the same time, we've also got structural reform happening across the economy. Technology advances, changes in business models, and the movement about how consumers are actually buying products and services, including things like Afterpay. And the question is, will the movement in interest rates have any impact whatsoever in the availability of credit supply? Because this is the number one thing that has actually changed the market conditions over the course of the last 18 months. So what do you need to do as an agent to understand all of that? Well, the most important thing that you can be doing, go to all of the existing stock that isn't sold and go and have that meeting with your owners and get them repositioned to get to sold. That repositioning is about the tool around marketing, pricing, sale method, but also in addition to that, getting very, very focused about getting an offer on the table for those owners to consider. The second thing is to make sure that you're always prospecting and having some really good quality dialogue around that. What we have seen in recent months is up to 30% less stock, particularly in the Melbourne and Sydney markets, but 25% less properties coming to market across the eastern seaboard. Now, the reason why this is such an important number to know is that if there is 1 in 4 less competing homes on the market, it represents an incredible opportunity for sellers to be coming to market and to be competing with less homes, and at the same time with fueling buyer demand, that should see some stronger price growth. What we know is that if all of the stock comes to market in late October and November and early December, when volumes start to return, the market will start to be more balanced and we'll be in a position that we'll be back to a normalised market where there's not rapid growth, there's not rapid decline, but literally we've just got a slow burn recovery in what's happening to sale prices. And that's what we expect to happen in the market over the course of the next 6, 12, 18 months. So welcome to the new economy. Let's learn how to play.